Many years ago, during the period when the judges ruled Israel, the land was ravaged by a terrible famine. The food shortage was so severe that life became unsustainable in Bethlehem, the home of a desperate family. In the midst of this calamity, Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their 2 sons were faced with a heartbreaking decision: to leave their homeland in search of sustenance. With heavy hearts, they undertook a long and arduous journey to Moab, a neighboring nation that, while not sharing the divine promises given to Israel, at least offered the hope of finding food. The need was pressing, and faced with the harsh reality of hunger, they chose survival above all else. Life in Moab, far from being a haven of peace, became a scene of profound tragedy for Naomi. The misfortune began when Elimelech, her husband and pillar of the family, died, leaving her widowed and burdened with her 2 sons in a foreign land. Over time, her sons, Mahlon and Chilion, found solace and started their own families, marrying 2 Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. For 10 years, life seemed to offer them respite, but sadness, like a persistent shadow, struck them again brutally. Both sons, Mahlon and Chilion, also died, leaving Naomi in heartbreaking loneliness. Now, the elderly Naomi found herself completely alone, widowed, childless, and banished from her homeland. Her heart was broken into 1,000 pieces, and bitterness filled her. In her despair, she felt that even God had turned his face against her, abandoning her to her cruel fate. One day, a ray of hope pierced the dense fog of Naomi's affliction. News reached her that changed her perspective. God had blessed his people in Bethlehem, and with his favor, there was bread again in her homeland. This long-awaited news rekindled in her the desire to return home. Without much thought, she packed her few remaining belongings and set out on the long journey home. Her 2 faithful and loyal daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah, accompanied her. However, as they continued forward, Naomi stopped, her heart torn by love and concern for them. In a voice tinged with sadness, she told them, "Go back, my daughters. Why should you stay with me? Do I have any other sons in my womb who could be your husbands and provide a future for you? God's hand has been very hard on me. Return to your mother's homes, and may the Lord grant you rest and a new home." Her love for them drove her to sacrifice herself, hoping they would find a better life than she, in her bitterness, believed she could offer them. The crossroads presented themselves, and with it, the painful farewell. With tears in her eyes and deep sorrow, Orpah kissed Naomi, her mother-in-law, and said goodbye, setting off on the journey back to her home and people. But Ruth, in an act of unwavering love and loyalty, clung to Naomi, refusing to let go. Naomi, moved but still aware of the difficulties that lay ahead, tried to persuade her once more. "Look," she said in a gentle voice, "your sister-in-law is leaving. She is returning to her people. Go you too and follow her." But Ruth's response resonated with one of the most powerful declarations of love and devotion ever uttered. "Do not ask me to leave you, nor to turn away from you," she declared firmly. "Where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord strike me if anything but death separates us." Faced with Ruth's unwavering determination, the profound sincerity of her words, and the strength of her love, Naomi understood there was nothing more to say. Silently, she accepted her company, knowing that she was no longer completely alone. The 2 women, Naomi and Ruth, arrived in Bethlehem at a time of great activity and promise, just as the barley harvest was beginning. News of their arrival spread quickly, and the city was in an uproar at the sight of them. The people of Bethlehem, recognizing the woman who had departed years before, asked in surprise, "Isn't this Naomi?" But the Naomi who returned was not the same one who had left. The bitterness of her losses had transformed her. In a voice broken by grief, She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, which means my sweetness. Call me Mara, which means bitter. For the Almighty has filled my life with great bitterness. I left here full, with my husband and my children, and the Lord has brought me back empty." Yet, despite her deep sorrow and feeling bereft of everything, Naomi was not as empty as she thought. At her side, steadfast and loyal, walked a young Moabite woman, a daughter-in-law who had demonstrated unconditional love and devotion. Her name was Ruth, and although Naomi didn't know it yet, God was about to begin writing an amazing new story through this young woman's faithfulness. Naomi's bitterness contrasted with Ruth's determination, who did not sit idly by. Knowing they had to find food, Ruth approached her mother-in-law with a humble proposal. "Let me go to the field and glean behind him in whose sight I find favor." In other words, she wanted to gather the stalks of barley that the harvesters left behind, a practice permitted to the poor and foreigners in Israel. Naomi, with a thread of hope in her voice, gave her blessing. "Go, my daughter." So Ruth left Bethlehem and, guided by what seemed to be divine chance, came to a field belonging to a man named Boaz. This man was a close relative of Elimelech, Naomi's late husband, and a man of great influence and wealth in the community. Unbeknownst to her, Ruth had found the place where her destiny would begin to intertwine with Providence. While Ruth was diligently gleaning, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem. Seeing the strange young woman, he asked his foreman, "Whose girl is this?" The foreman respectfully explained that she was the Moabite woman who had returned with Naomi and had been working tirelessly since morning. Aware of Ruth's story and her loyalty to Naomi, Boaz approached her with kindness and generosity. "Listen, my daughter," he said, "do not go to glean in another field, nor leave this place. Stay with my maids. Watch where they are reaping and follow them. I have commanded my servants that no one should disturb you, and if you are thirsty, go to the jars and drink from the water the young men draw." Ruth, overwhelmed by such kindness from a stranger, fell face down and asked, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should acknowledge me, a foreigner?" Boaz responded warmly, demonstrating that her reputation for loyalty and love had reached his ears. "I have been told everything you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband died, and how you left your father and your mother and the land of your birth and came to a people you did not know before. May the Lord reward you for what you have done, and may you receive a full reward from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." At mealtime, Boaz again showed his generosity. He invited Ruth to join him and his harvesters. "Come here," he said, "and eat the bread and dip your morsel in the vinegar." Boaz himself served her parched grain, and Ruth ate until she was satisfied, even saving what was left for Naomi. When Ruth returned to the field to continue gleaning, Boaz gave his servants explicit instructions. "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not shame her. In fact, deliberately drop some of the sheaves for her, and leave them for her to gather, and do not rebuke her." This gesture, beyond mere charity, was a sign of profound respect and care. Ruth worked until nightfall, harvesting a considerable amount of barley. As evening fell, Ruth returned to Bethlehem laden with the fruits of her labor. Seeing the abundance of barley she had gathered, almost an ephah, a considerable amount, Naomi was filled with astonishment and asked, "Where have you gleaned today? And where have you worked? Blessed be he who has recognized you." Ruth, with a heart overflowing with gratitude, told her mother-in-law everything that had happened and the name of the man who had been so kind to her. "The man in whose field I work today is called Boaz." The news lit a spark of hope in Naomi's heart. With a new light in her eyes, she exclaimed, "Blessed be he of the Lord, who has not taken away his loving kindness from the living or the dead. This man is our near relative, one of our redeemers." For Naomi, this was an unequivocal sign that God had not forgotten them. She encouraged Ruth to continue gleaning in Boaz's fields, as it was a safe and profitable place. Ruth obeyed her mother-in-law and continued working there until the end of the barley and wheat harvest, remaining close to Boaz's maids. With the harvest nearing its end and Ruth having worked diligently in Boaz's fields, Naomi began to devise a plan. Her heart, though still marked by bitterness, felt a spark of hope for Ruth's future. Knowing that Boaz was a close relative and, therefore, a potential redeemer, she set out to secure her daughter-in-law's future and safety. One day, Naomi said to Ruth, "My daughter, should I not find a home for you so that it may go well with you? Now then, isn't Boaz, with whose maids you were, a relative of ours? Look, he is going to winnow the barley tonight on the threshing floor. Bathe, anoint yourself with perfume, and put on your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor. But do not let yourself be seen by the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, mark the place where he lies. Then go, lift the hem of his robe and lie down there. He will tell you what you must do." Ruth, with the same loyalty that had driven her to follow Naomi, responded, "I will do whatever you tell me." Despite the bold and unconventional nature of the plan, Ruth fully trusted her mother-in-law's wisdom. Just as Naomi had instructed, Ruth went down to the threshing floor in the middle of the night. She hid and waited patiently until Boaz finished eating and drinking. After he was satisfied, Boaz lay down beside the pile of grain to rest. In the darkness, Ruth crept up, lifted the hem of Boaz's garment, and lay down at his feet. At midnight, Boaz awoke with a start. He turned and, to his surprise, discovered a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. Ruth replied in a trembling but firm voice, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread the hem of your garment over your servant, for you are a kinsman who will redeem me." With these words, Ruth not only revealed her identity, but also presented her request that Boaz assume his responsibility as a close kinsman, a protector and provider. Boaz, moved by Ruth's faith and boldness, responded with blessings. "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter. You have shown your loyalty even more than before, by not going after young men, whether rich or poor. Now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you everything you ask, for all the people of my town know that you are a virtuous woman." However, Boaz also explained an important consideration. "It is true that I am a kinsman redeemer, but there is a kinsman closer than I. To fulfill the law and custom of Israel, this closest kinsman had the first right and the first obligation to redeem Elimelech's family, which included marrying Ruth. Boaz, being a man of honor, made a promise. Stay here tonight, and in the morning, if he is willing to redeem you, fine, let him redeem you. But if he is not willing to redeem you, as surely as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until morning." So Ruth remained at Boaz's feet until dawn. Boaz, to protect Ruth's reputation and his own, made sure that no one knew a woman had been at the threshing floor. Before she left, he asked her to spread out her mantle and filled it with 6 measures of barley, a generous gift and a sign of his commitment. "Do not return to your mother-in-law empty-handed," he told her. Ruth returned home, and Naomi greeted her with the question, "Who are you, my daughter?" In the culture of the time, this question could have meant, "How did your business go?" Ruth told her everything Boaz had done for her and showed her the 6 measures of barley he had given her. Naomi, filled with hope and comfort, said to Ruth, "Be calm, my daughter, until you know how this matter is resolved, because that man will not rest until he has resolved this today." Naomi understood Boaz's character and knew he would not delay in keeping his promise, trusting that this turn of events was God's providence working on her behalf and on Ruth's. True to his word, Boaz wasted no time. Early the next morning, he headed to the city gate, the place where legal and public affairs were settled in those days. There he waited. Soon, to his good fortune, he saw the nearest kinsman redeemer he had spoken to Ruth about the night before pass by. Boaz called him by name, although the text omits it, referring to him simply as so-and-so, or X in some translations. Boaz said to him, "Come here and sit here." The man approached and sat next to him. Boaz gathered 10 elders of the city, key witnesses to the legal transaction that was about to take place. Boaz explained the situation to them. "Naomi, who has returned from the country of Moab, is selling the piece of land that belonged to our brother Elimelech. I thought to inform you and say, purchase it in the presence of these sitting here, and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you want to redeem it for me. And if you don't want to redeem it, tell me so I know, for there is no one to redeem it but you, and I after you." The relative initially replied, "I will redeem it." The acquisition of the land was a good deal. But Boaz wasn't finished. He concluded the crucial explanation for the relative. "On the day you acquire the land from Naomi, you will also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the deceased, to raise up the deceased's name over his inheritance." This condition radically changed the relative's perspective. The law of levirate marriage to the widow of a deceased brother or relative to perpetuate his lineage, entailed considerable responsibility. Marrying Ruth would mean having children in the name of the deceased, and any inheritance these children received would belong to Elimelech's line, not his own. Furthermore, it would entail supporting Ruth, a woman without her own resources. The relative, assessing the financial and lineage implications, responded, "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I damage my own inheritance. Redeem it for yourself, for I cannot redeem it." With these words, the relative ceded his right of redemption to Boaz. To seal the agreement, the relative took off his shoes and handed his sandal to Boaz, an ancient ritual in Israel to confirm a purchase and sale transaction. Boaz then declared before the elders and all the people gathered at the gate, "You are witnesses today that I have bought from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech and all that belonged to Chilion and Mahlon. I have also bought Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, to be my wife, to raise up the name of the deceased on his inheritance, so that the name of the deceased will not be blotted out from among his brothers and from the gate of his place. You are witnesses today." All the people and the elders at the gate responded, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who enters your house like Rachel and Leah, who built the house of Israel. May you become a great man in Ephrathah and famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar gave to Judah, because of the descendants the Lord will give you from this young woman." So Boaz took Ruth as his wife. The story of a stranger stripped of everything culminated in an honorable and blessed marriage. The Lord granted Ruth conception, and she gave birth to a son. The women of the city, filled with joy, congratulated Naomi, saying, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you today without a redeemer. May his name be famous in Israel. He will restore you to life and sustain you in your old age, for your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is more to you than 7 sons, has borne him." Naomi, whose heart had been filled with bitterness, felt joy return to her life. She took the child in her arms, cared for him, and became his nurse. The women of the city, seeing Naomi's care and love for the child, named him Obed. Not only that, but they added, "This is the father of Jesse, the father of David." This story concludes with the genealogy that connects Obed to David, the future king of Israel, and through David, to the line from which the Messiah, Jesus, would be born. Thus, the story of a Moabite widow, her unwavering loyalty, and the generosity of a righteous man become a fundamental piece in God's great plan of redemption, demonstrating that even in the deepest adversity, faith and kindness can lead to unexpected blessings and an eternal legacy.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, Bible Space. By doing so, you not only support us, but you also ensure you don't miss any of the fascinating stories we're preparing for you. Every week, we'll uncover more stories of faith, courage, and miracles. Turn on the bell so YouTube will notify you every time we upload a new video. Join our community and continue exploring the stories that have shaped human history.